Welcome back to another episode of the Casey Campbell Podcast. Casey Campbell with you, of course, and we are pleased to be joined by Paul Kelly of Indianapolis Motor Speedway, as well as IndyCar and also the Penske Entertainment Group. Hey, Paul, how's it going?
I'm doing great, Casey. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be on.
Okay, so one of the big reason I got you on is because, of course, we're heading IndyCar and NASCAR heading to Indianapolis this weekend, but sadly, there will not be one person there with us. As of course, you may have heard Bob Jenkins passed away this week after a long battle with cancer at the age of 73 this week. So, Paul, I know you knew Bob pretty well. What has it been like at the Speedway this week, and knowing that he's not going to be there?
It's somber. I mean, Bob had been quite ill all year. He learned of his diagnosis right after Christmas, right around the holidays. I think a lot of people know the story. He said on Christmas evening he had a severe headache, and he knew something told him this isn't just a headache. So he went to the doctor and he got it checked, and it was determined he'd had brain cancer, and he fought it and he got treatment. But sadly it was unsuccessful. And while we knew this day was coming, that did not soften the blow at all. There's a lot of people here this week at IMS with very heavy hearts. A lot of good memories, though. You hear this all the time, especially when somebody passed. Oh, he's such a great guy, nicest guy in the world, what a person. That's not a cliche with Bob. He truly was one of the nicest human beings you could ever meet. He was just a prince of a human being, just a great guy. And that makes it even harder, because Bob, he lived for this place. He loved this track, and he loved being here, and he loved the people, and that love was reciprocated. And he was here in May, and it was nice that he was able to receive the Robin Miller Award. And for many of us, that was the last time we saw him, and we all got a chance to chat and say hello and keep fighting and things. And that's a good memory of Bob. But man, what a guy, and what a pioneer, what a legend. It's a big loss.
Yeah. And and I know you mentioned Robin Miller as well. I know he's been fighting as well. Keep fighting there, Robin. We're all looking for him. We're all thinking about you. We're all praying for you. I just wanted to get that in there.
100%.
Yeah. It's awkward enough that sometimes it's weird in how these things work, and it's like maybe there's a God after all, because awkwardly enough, it's right before both series, IndyCar and NASCAR, two series that he had a lot of dealings with. They're going to be both here at the Speedway this weekend. So
yeah. Oh, I'm sure Bob's going to look down this from above this weekend with his beloved wife Pam, who tragically and ironically also passed from brain cancer about 8 or 9 years ago. Yeah. And many people know that's why Bob retired from broadcasting, to care for his wife. And that's again, Bob was always about other people, not himself. He still was a very vibrant, viable, in-demand broadcaster, and he retired just so he could spend time with his beloved wife and care for her while she was very ill. And that's Bob in a nutshell. I remember the first time I met Bob. It was my first year here at the track. It was '98, and Bob was still doing NASCAR then, and he was doing IndyCar. He was Bob Jenkins. I mean, he's Bob Jenkins.
Yeah.
And the first time I met him, it was like we'd known each other for 15 years, and just so warm. And he wanted to know about you and your family and what was up with you. It was never about him, ever. And he could have had an ego. He was Bob Jenkins. Like I said, he's a broadcasting icon. I mean, that you think about in the 80s and the 90s, the 80s and the 90s, how much the broadcasting team of Bob Jenkins, Benny Parsons, and Ned Jarrett helped to make NASCAR explode into the mainstream. They were a big part of that. That booth had so much chemistry. And then the Thunder shows. Thursday Night Thunder, Saturday Night Thunder, Bob and um, Larry Nuber and Larry Rice, and it just, I mean, those the, those were amazing telecasts, and those brought short track racing to people who had very little idea what it was. And he just loved it. He loved it. He just loved racing. He was to the core. And yeah, just yeah, it I get bummed out a little bit just talking about it, that he's gone. I mean, it just, but the memories are so fond. And yeah.
Yeah, the sad thing is I never got a chance to meet him, but I met a lot of cool people in this business. I know that booth's going to feel a little empty, but you got Dave Calabro, who has been the track announcer for years. AB is going to be there. Alan Bestwick who originally I think was scheduled was just to fill in for him, and now I think he's going to, with Dave and AB up there and everybody else. It's going to be a fun weekend, and obviously the booth's in good hands.
For sure. But I want to tell you a quick anecdote about Bob.
Right.
It was in May.
Yeah.
When he came here to the media center to accept the Robin Miller Award. And, he wasn't doing that great. He was in a wheelchair. He even admitted there were times, where he got a little, because he had brain cancer, that sometimes he had trouble putting together sentences and remembering things, but he was in good form that day. And he gave just an incredibly poignant, short, eloquent acceptance speech. But Robin was here, up on where I'm sitting right now on this podium. And he was with Mark Miles and all the people who came here to witness Bob getting. So it was a measure of the man. So many announcers were up here. Roger Penske was here. Mark Miles was here. Jay Fry was here. Bud Danker was here. Al Unser was here. Mario Andretti was here. Johnny Rutherford was here. I don't know if AJ was here. I can't remember. But anyways, Robin told an anecdote. He said, he goes over to Charlie Brown's here across the street over in Speedway to have lunch with friends a couple times a week. And, they just chew the fat and talk racing, the hot stove. And one day the question was, is there anybody in North American racing who at least one person does not dislike, or that, at least who is not hated by at least one person?
Yeah.
And they're all sitting around, and Robin told the story, and only like Robin can. They're all sitting around saying, "Nah, I can't think of somebody. I can't think of anybody. There's got to be at least everybody out there's got to have at least one person who's cross with him."
Yeah.
And he said at the table, I can't remember who it was. Somebody said, "Wait a minute. What about Bob Jenkins?" And they all unanimously went, "Oh my God, that's it. He's the guy. He's the only guy." Bob Jenkins is the only person in North American racing who is probably universally loved by everyone. And it was a funny anecdote. But Casey, the thing was, it's true.
Yeah.
Those are the best stories, when they're great anecdotes, and they're also true. I have never, again, I've been here since 1998.
Yep. I
have never heard an ill syllable, let alone word, spoken about Bob Jenkins.
Yeah.
That's the measure of the man right there.
What were in meeting him and kind of experiencing him? He's been around the Speedway for a long time. Yeah, I know that was a memory that you had. What are some other memories that you had of Bob being here?
Well, the one thing, again, I've always said about Bob, like, you would see Bob in the media center. Like, I never leave this building. When I'm here, I may as well just set up a cot. This is where I work all the time, and I don't get out on the grounds much. So most of the time when I saw Bob, it was here in the media center, and he could be 50, 80 feet away, and you'd make eye contact and you'd wave. He would come right over and he would talk with you. And again, he would ask you, "What's going on? Yeah, what's new? How's your family? How's your wife? How are your kids?" And blah, blah, blah. It wasn't just with me, it was with everybody. Like, he was a friend to everybody. But, as far as, probably my biggest memory is the same one as everybody, and it was before I knew him, but it was the call of the 92 race.
Yeah.
The closing lap. That was his classic call. And even he said that, that was the call that I'll always remember. And, but how he just worked his way up, started out as an agriculture reporter on a show called Ag Day, and then he got put on the IMS radio network, and he had thought that, that was his big break, and that was he was a pit reporter, turn reporter. But, Bob is a classic example of nice guys finish first. Just nice guys finishing first, because Bob was, he's an icon. He's in the IMS Hall of Fame for good reason. But that, as far as his calls, it's the 92 call. But again, for me, it's just the humanity of the man. Like, there were a number of times, especially in my early years, where I was just like, man, I just got to talk with Bob Jenkins for like 5 or 10 minutes, and he treated me like I had known him
forever,
for 20 years.
Yeah.
Like, wow, that was Bob Jenkins. Holy cow, that was Bob Jenkins. I just hung out and talked with Bob Jenkins. I just cannot stress again what a kind human being and a decent human being he is. Proud Hoosier, grew up in Liberty, Indiana, small town.
Yeah.
And he loved racing. And he really thought of the fans in his call, because, his famous line, and he said it many times, and it's true. He just, well, it's not true, but he just said, I was a race fan who got lucky. And my response, and everybody's response to that, was, no, Bob, we were the lucky ones, not you.
Yeah.
That we got to be a part of your life, and we got to hear your talent on TV, on the radio, on the IMS public address. We're the lucky ones. We're the lucky ones.
How should Bob Jenkins be remembered?
One of the greatest broadcasters, one of the greatest racing broadcasters of all time. A guy who helped propel the sport to new heights through his work, although he would surely not admit to that, but that's a fact. And one of the nicest human beings you can meet in any walk of life. Truly, the man, I never heard him speak an ill word of anyone. No one. And really, what he did for the growth of the sport, and just called it straight, and that's another thing about Bob, is that, when Bob was in the booth, he always deferred to his analysts in the booth. If you watch those NASCAR races, he would always, kind of let Ned and Benny do their thing. And he also, like when he was on the Thunder shows, he would let Larry Rice do his thing, or Bob or Larry Newber do his thing. He knew his role. It was to call the action. Bob never thought he was the star of the show, even though he was one of the greatest broadcasters of all time. And again, that's just a mirror of his personality. That's why the booths that he was always in had such great chemistry, I think.
It's good stuff. And
yeah, there really is.
To ever do it, for sure.
Yeah. And live television, man. I've been a reporter and a writer for my entire professional career. Live television is really hard. Like, you've got somebody, I've never done it, but I know people who have, you've got somebody talking in your ear, telling you to do things while you're broadcasting it. It's really, really hard. And who did it better? He's an absolute legend. And he just made it easy. And just like when you watch a broadcast with Bob Jenkins, or listen to a radio broadcast, or heard him on the PA, it just felt like you had a good friend up there in the booth. Because again, he felt like every race fan out there was his friend. And that's a rare, rare gift. And we're all really fortunate that he was able to share it with us.
Yeah, I know there's going to be a lot of tributes planned at the Speedway this weekend. Do you know of any planned tributes that the Speedway is going to do?
I know there are things in the works for pre-race. Yeah, I don't have all the details, but there are definitely tributes in the works. And also, Bob's memorial service is Monday at 10 o'clock Eastern. And if people go to either IMS.com or IndyCar.com, there are stories in the news section with the details on how people can watch it. It's going to be live streamed. So, we encourage people to, everywhere here in town or all over the world, people who love Bob and love his work, to watch the live stream. I know I will.
All right. Paul Kelly from IMS. Going to be a big weekend down there, and thanks for coming on and sharing memories about it.
Casey, it was a pleasure. Thanks for having me anytime. I'll be back anytime you want.